Hello world, my name is Cami and welcome back to another video on iOS development. Now today, as you can see, we're going to be creating horizontal scroll views in Xcode using storyboards and Swift. Now if you're looking for a vertical scroll view, don't worry, I've got you covered, link in my description to that video, but for now, let's dive right in. First, we're going to create our new iOS project, or if you already have one created, fantastic, but if you haven't, we're going to make an iOS app. And we can name it anything we want. In this case, I'm just going to call it Scroll Views. The team doesn't matter, organization identifier can leave it as default, but make sure the interface is storyboard and the language is Swift. Go ahead and click Next and click Create. Once your project has loaded, we're going to navigate over to this very left panel, our navigation controller, and click on Main to open up our main storyboard. If you don't see this file, you might have forgotten to select the interface as storyboard, but if not, you should be on a page that looks like a little iPhone. Now I'm going to click on the view controller, and I'm going to make the background something just a little bit of a different color, in this case indigo, just to be able to see where we're working with a little bit better. But next up, we're going to dive right in and add our scroll view. We're going to add the scroll view by going to our object library, or the little plus sign at the top, and typing in scroll view, and it should pop up pretty quickly. So I'm just going to drag this anywhere on our screen. I'm going to make it the size of the screen, and then what's really important is we have to add initial constraints onto our scroll view. The way we can do that is while we have it highlighted, we're going to navigate to this little box with kind of looks like 4 lines out of each side. We're going to click on Add New Constraints, and I'm just going to click on all of these little dotted red lines and make them solid. Now something else I'm going to do is I'm going to select height, and I'm going to add 5 constraints by clicking the bottom button. And it's going to be a little angry, and that's totally okay. We're going to fix it in the long run. The reason I added the height though is because instead of scrolling up and down, we're going to be scrolling left to right. So it's important to keep that height the same, so then we can't do both. If you do want to do both though, then just don't check that button. Next up, we have our scroll view initially set up, but we can't quite work directly within the scroll view. Rather, we're going to add a view inside of the scroll view. It's a lot of views, but we're going to go back to our object library. We're going to look up view, and this one takes a little bit of searching. It's about halfway down, it seems, and it should be all by itself. We're going to drag that inside of our UI scroll view. It should highlight in this little blue color, and I'm going to make this also the size of our scroll view. Now, if you think of it in a little bit of a metaphorical way, the reason why we have to add a view inside of our scroll view is just because it makes adding everything else a little bit easier. Think of it like this. If you have a journal, you have the front cover and you have the back cover, but it's always like a little bit different of a texture than the paper inside of a journal. Think of the view like the paper we're going to actually do the writing on, and the scroll view is going to be like the book around it. So now we're going to have to customize what our pages look like just a little bit. So we're going to start out by having our view selected. We're going to go and add constraints to every side of our view. The important part is to click this little drop down and make sure it's from the scroll view instead of the frame layout guide. I've noticed this fixes a couple little errors along the way, and next we're going to click on height and add 5 constraints. So once we've done that, next we have to actually link our view to the scroll view itself, and so we're going to do that in this little document outline. If you don't see it, it can be toggled in this little left corner here. But we're going to click on the view, hold Control and drag to the content layout guide. Not the frame layout guide, but the content layout guide. And we're going to go ahead and select equal widths. Now, once we've done this, you're going to see a couple more red lines, but you're going to see these blue lines with more lines on it. Just a lot of lines. But this pretty much shows that we have now connected the two. And from this point, we're going to intentionally break a couple things in order to get everything working. Now this seems a little counterintuitive, but I've discovered that somehow it works and it's a little bit faster. So we're going to go ahead and drag our view out as far as we'd like to be able to scroll. And as you can see, this looks a little bit wrong, but that's totally okay. So what we're going to do next is actually go down and add new constraints on top of this. And the way that we're going to do it is we're going to click on this little arrow here for the side that we scrolled right on. And we're going to select from the scroll view. So it should not be negative. It should be whatever number is present in it. Make sure that this is a solid red line. And then at the same time, we're going to select the little width box at the bottom before adding 2 constraints. Now you're going to see we actually are able to scroll. Or some of us might be. I've noticed that sometimes this works, sometimes it doesn't, and in that case, what would be helpful is to actually delete the little red line if we can click on it. And once we delete that line with a bigger number, we're able to scroll comfortably and have no errors in terms of our constraints. Now, just to prove this works, I'm going to go ahead and add a label, or in this case, 2 labels, one in the very front. Then I'm going to copy it, and as you can see, it disappears when I scroll, and I'm going to copy a different label to the other side. And so now, if we go ahead and check I'm on an iPhone 11, I'm going to run this on an iPhone 11, and it should show our label and then the test label on the other side when we scroll. Now that we have our simulator running, I'm going to go ahead and click on the simulator, which simulates like swiping with your finger. And as you can see, if we scroll to the other side, we have tests that does show up. And so just like that, we have gotten our horizontal scroll view working rather quickly in Xcode with storyboards and Swift. And I wish you all the luck with the rest of your project, and happy coding!